Software architecture styles chart by, now the name of the company is ByteByteGo, but the guy who actually posted it was I think a regular contributor on LinkedIn. Does put out a lot of these kind of charts and things like that. They also have like a cheat sheet, I think, system design cheat sheet somewhere. So I'll try and include the link of that. I will try and put this up on the screen as well, so you guys can kind of see it and pause it. But the link will be in the descriptions. That's probably the best place to look at it, and you can kind of download it and have a look at it yourself and have a read. So the styles are kind of quite comprehensive. There's quite a lot of them there in terms of these sort of software architecture styles. I first of all was not aware that there's obviously quite a lot, but it's nice to, again, that's why it's kind of nice to have this sort of chart. And the chart just kind of breaks down the different types of architectures into kind of different segments. So you got everything from well, let's go around the wheel. Layered to component-based, service-oriented, distributed system, domain-driven, event-driven, which has, I think, come up quite a lot recently, separation of concern, interpreter, concurrency, and data-centric. So a lot of styles there. Again, we're not going to be able to do justice to to the whole chart kind of here, and we probably don't know most of the stuff there. Some of it was quite surprising even to kind of to us, when we looked at that. But it does kind of break down some of them sort of outside of that wheel chart, which I thought was quite useful. And yeah, and they go everything from, what did you pick up on, Cheryl? I picked up on microkernel architecture, and again microservices architecture.
I haven't heard microkernels for quite a while, I feel. I think this is architecture in very many different ways of interpreting architecture.
Yeah.
So some of them are almost a bit more business oriented ways of describing an architecture, and then some are, I have to go back to my sort of CS 101 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. To recall.
I have to just warn the viewers. Both Cheryl and I have kind of hung up our architecture coats or hats a long time ago. So, but it's still nevertheless, I think, interesting, and obviously compiling it all together was the thing that really captured it for me.
Yeah, it's quite nice to see them all together. Said I would have, in my mind, I think of some of them as quite separate. So it's kind of good to just see it sort of compared in different ways. Microservices is obviously the one that I'm most familiar with my cloud native background. I was a little bit surprised that they separated Lambda from serverless.
Yeah. That's yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Yes. Okay. So yes, I think so that was in the service oriented section of the wheel, and in that chart, on that side of the chart, says service oriented architecture, broker, microservices, and serverless, or function as a service. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whether I would. Is that how they call it? They have serverless, and that is classed as function as a service, or FAS for short. I don't know. I thought those were slightly different, but I don't know. Maybe
I think they are slightly different.
Yeah.
I think FAS is probably the most popular way to implement serverless, but there's no serverless is not serverless and FAS don't mean the same thing to me.
That's what I thought as well. Because I get the impression that if you're going to do serverless, you just you're describing sort of the environment you want to build in the cloud. You take that through that sort of cloud engine or world engine that will like Lambda, that will actually generate the environment for you. You do what you want to do, whatever that environment is going to do, and then you tear it down when you don't need it. right? And you're not necessarily caring about, because you've specified everything in your script, for Lambda or whatever the world engine is. It just generates that environment for you, and you're not particularly kind of worried about certain aspects of that implementation. So it gets implemented, it does whatever it's going to do, whatever the service is doing for your business, and then you tear it down. Whereas function as a service is kind of more, taking advantage of some of the functions that are available in the cloud and actually hand weaving those into your script and then bringing in your functions as well that will perform whatever that task is. And that could be as simple as, batch processing to something extremely complicated. And that was kind of my understanding of it, but I don't know. I agree with you. I certainly wouldn't put those in kind of the same space.
I think you can do FAS you can do FAS on-prem. So FAS does not necessarily mean cloud functions.
Yeah.
But I would agree that FAS to me is a little bit more about the way you build your application. Perhaps Lambda or serverless, serverless is more of a principle, perhaps, or an approach.
Yes.
And then FAS is a specific set of rules and guidelines about how you structure your applications. And then Lambda even more is, AWS's version of.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I think one of them is kind of the principal approach, if you like, and not an actual architecture by itself. Yeah, the one that caught my eye as well which is on the breakouts, a space-based architecture, and I thought, is that like when you design it on the moon or something? Is it space architecture? Obviously, it's not. But it says this resolves the issues of data consistency, reliable performance, and scalability for large-scale distributed systems. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's got kind of a virtualized, middleware, so all your sort of data and messaging grid and so on is in that, and then you've got separate sort of processing units. So that's interesting because they all seem to have their own sort of logic and database and various other sort of components as well. So
I've not heard of this space-based.
Yeah. So I mean, it's literally spacing things out and putting them into separate modules, I guess.
Perhaps, but what is? I mean, from a I don't know how we should call it, from a cloud native perspective, okay, things run on different servers, so they're in different parts of space. Is that space?
Yeah, I don't know. Region? Is it kind of a region thing or?
Yeah, I don't know how big this processing unit that they're talking about is. Is that
no idea?
Or is that a single CPU or what?
Maybe I don't know. Maybe a availability zone or region or something. And then the one bit I picked up on that said deployment manager. That's a bit of an antiquated term, I think. It shouldn't be like provisioning tool or something a little bit more modern these days. It takes me back to my IBM days of
deployment
managers.
That's maybe
a tool
IBM.
called remote deployment manager or something, RDM. Spent many a time enjoying fixing that piece of but yeah.
You remind me as well of under the concurrency section, there's one called orchestration. And in my head, of course, I go straight to Kubernetes and orchestration.
Yes.
And not
well, it says central coordinator, so often called the orchestrator, so maybe we can qualify for that.
Kind of is, but I would presume they're talking about orchestration at a slightly lower level.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Managing it's for managing the control flow and data flow between services. Yeah.
Right, but is that like an operating system managing processes and threads? you think?
I don't know. All I know is that choreography should not be in there. I think that's a no word. You've got orchestrator, that's fine. I can go that far. But when you get to choreography, I'll draw the line. Stop the nonsense now. That's enough. It makes as much sense as Kubernetes now adopting names for their version releases. I'm sorry, but I really hate that. So okay, and the other one I picked up on was, this is actually quite interesting, the event-driven architecture. I really like that, and I think that's a kind of a different way of approaching things. Kind of you only take an action, or you're only active if there's if a particular event or set of events occurs, or a sequence, or whether it's linear or not, I'm not sure, but that kind of architecture I really I'm interested in. I don't think I have a sort of a huge grasp on it, but it's just kind of the idea of it, the concept of it, I really like. So it says promotes the production, detection, consumption, and reaction to events. Yeah, okay. As to how it kind of really works and stuff, I don't know. Maybe this is kind of lending itself more. I mean, I know things like you need sort of event managers and things like that, right? And you kind of need to load balance stuff and so on. You need to broker things. I think it's got a broker in there or something like that. Yeah, messaging broker. Yeah. So you do need some kind of a messaging broker, because you can't. I guess that kind of acts as your sort of load balancer. You can't really just kind of throw all the events at something. So you do need that kind of broker sort of approach. And then, as depending on what the event is, certain aspects of your architecture will start reacting to it, right? And take actions based on that type of event that you're receiving. So I do like that, because I think that is more modern, and a lot of people seem to be talking about when something's happening, like on your database, on your website, or your IoT device, or whatever it is, you want to the data that you're capturing you're not actually storing it, you're actually streaming it. So you're dealing with the event that brings in that data in real time, and then you process whatever that is. You take the action, and you maybe only store metadata. You don't actually store the data that you captured, right? So that is quite interesting. That's all kind of, I think, in this event-driven architecture space, which I find quite interesting. I think that's maybe, I don't know, maybe it's, I certainly remember kind of last couple of years that there was a lot of talk about, event-driven architecture. So, yeah.
I've only ever personally used it once, and that was for my undergrad thesis, actually.
Oh,
so
okay.
A long time ago.
Wow. That has taken you back a while then.
Yeah. Oh dear, I shouldn't really say that.
Oh, guys, I try to remember.
But I built a sort of game that you could control with either a keyboard,
yeah,
or you could control it with I had a room set up with loads of cameras, and there's kind of black things you wear with the
yeah.
Move it around, move your arms and legs around to move it. Right?
Yeah.
And you could also output
the motion capture stuff. Yeah.
Right. And then you could either output it as just a thing on your screen, or you had a little robot that would follow these things. So because there were multiple input formats and multiple output formats, the event-driven thing made a lot of sense. And because it's all real time as well, because it was a game, you didn't need to store anything. You just interpret things as they come in. I don't know how that really works in the real world,
right?
But yeah, that is my only experience.
Right.
With event-driven architecture.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's. I mean, like I said, I think the chart is very useful. At least, kind of, gives you a nice summary of everything. So we do appreciate it. And it's got us kind of going on conversation and sort of understanding some of the areas of and different styles of architecture. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to support me. You may also want to check out some of the other videos on this channel. Bye for now.